This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. Sometimes you need to ply yarns, and sometimes you need them to have a tight twist. There are many ways to ply yarn. You can ply yarn using a spinning wheel. You can also ply yarn by stacking it and drawing the yarn from the bottom cone or ball through the top cone of yarn. You'll have to have your yarn in a cone with an opening to do that. However, there are plenty of times when you really need a lot of twist on the yarn. You don't want it to just be loosely plied. And if you're a machine knitter, you do not want to just put two yarns in two different upper tension feeders and let them go, because that'll give you a lot of striping that might be undesirable. If you want more of a tweeded look with the colors scattered all about, this is a better way to do it. Here's an example of a shawl that I knitted using a twister, and I used all kinds of scrap sock yarn for this. It was absolutely great fun to make, and I'll show you what I used. I have lots of little bits of sock yarn in quite a few colors. So I used some white boucle yarn that I had for one of the strands of the yarn, and for the other strand of the yarn I used little bits of sock yarn, and I actually joined the sock yarn with Russian joins. Whenever I ran out, I would put a Russian join. If I had a lot of the yarn, I wouldn't use a whole ball. I would change color a little more often. So this is how that yarn knitted up, made with all those little odds and ends. I got some striping, and because this shawl, which is in my shawl book, didn't match up along the miter, that's kind of interesting too, different stripes converging. So you get a tweedy effect, you get a nice scattering. This is what you get on the purl side of the work, and here's what you get on the knit side of the work. So let me show you how to use one of these twisters. I've had this for many years. I don't know if you can even get them brand new, but they are available, and a lot of knitting machine dealers can help you find one, and you might be able to find one on eBay or Craigslist or through a machine knitting club. Here's what's in the box. This is the main part of the winder, and it has this clamp over on the side. It needs to be put on a sturdy table and clamped down. So after I slide it on, then I'm going to go down here and tighten that clamp. So that is firmly attached. Now this part is just stored separately because it's big. There's a slot right here in the bottom center of the little pink unit, and I just push that in, and this holds a second color of yarn. I have to feed two colors of yarn and twist them together. And this is the bobbin. People call them the hats. Anyway, it's the center for the ball of yarn you're going to create. And it goes here on this geared centerpiece of the winder. You just put it on, press down gently, and turn it clockwise. It'll go into position and stay, again, very securely. Here are the two yarns I'm planning to twist, and here's the yarn coming out of the center of this ball. I'm going to put that ball on the floor, and then here is some sock yarn that I'm going to ply up with it, and the yarn again is coming out of the center of that ball, and I'll put it on the floor. I'm going to take these two yarns together and thread the yarn twister, and it may not be what you expect, but it's pretty easy. First, the two strands go through the loop, the feeding eye on the big yarn stand. Then they go through the feeding eye on the little short yarn stand, the one that goes around and around and isn't in a fixed position. Then the yarn goes in one of these notches on the yarn spindle so that I can go ahead and start my work. Now, I want you to know that you can use this as an ordinary yarn winder. You have to change it a bit. And you can also choose the direction of the twist. If I choose to turn this handle clockwise, I get what they call a right twist. And if I turn it the opposite direction, I'll get a left twist. Every so often, I'm just untangling the yarn. Now, this twists the yarn a multiple of times in this short 7-inch distance from here to here. If you look closely, you can see the yarn going around and around. This yarn is going to be thoroughly twisted. This will avoid any problems with one strand of the yarn being longer than the other and creating a loop or coming apart later. This will avoid any problems with the colors making undesirable stripes. These colors will be pretty thoroughly tweeded into the color scheme. And I'll just keep twisting a bit. Now, I will tell you, there's a negative about this unit. It's boring. In all the twisting I did on video just now, I only have this little bit twisted. So it does a wonderful job, but it takes a while. So this is a good job for when you've got something good to listen to and keep your mind busy, because it is a dull job. When you use this twister, you'll find that it is not easy to untwist it again. So twist only as much as you need. And you can always come back and twist a little more as you need it. Now, it'll hold a good sized ball of yarn. I think you'll be really pleased with that. I'm just going to cut the yarn and demonstrate a couple of ways to use the yarn once it's twisted. I've cut it and I'm turning this counterclockwise and lifting it off. You can use the yarn by pulling from the outside. That works just fine. Alternatively, you can take the center of the yarn and you can pull from the center by pulling this off the little spindle, and you see it'll feed from the center. So that gives you a choice. Now, some yarns behave better fed from the center, some behave better fed from the outside. If they're wound on this twister really tightly, they're going to feed better from the outside. So that's all there is to using it, and it's a little tool that people don't use every day, but for its specific purpose, it really is terrific.